Hello and welcome to your Taurus January 2020 reading. Hi, I'm Nigel Saint James for those who haven't seen this channel before, and welcome back to those of you who have subscribed. I appreciate your loyalty and your interest in what I have to say. Look, this is appropriate, of course, for the sun sign of Taurus. It's also appropriate for the rising sign of Taurus and for the moon sign of Taurus. In fact, if you have a lot of planets in Taurus in your natal chart, this is also appropriate for you. But let us get things underway. This tarot deck has interspersed between it a lot of Nordic runes and Chinese I Ching, as well as mystical letters which impart meaning, in addition to the astrology that applies to the cards depending on wherever the card happens to lay in the spread. I'm going to use, because of the Nordic influence and the Scandinavian Germanic runic influence, most of which were produced on wood as part of their mystical ceremonies, I'm going to have a rather earthy reading for you this month. So without any further ado, let us get things underway for you, shall we? January, great start for the new year, one hopes. Here we go. I think it should be a good year for you, this one. There we have the Star. Well, it's hard to get better than that, isn't it? There we have the Magician. Let's see what else there happens to be. Two major arcana cards. First out, of course. Very auspicious for you at this time of year. Well, there's a few things coming out, so let's go and see what they happen to be. The Daughter of Stones in the West is the name of this card. I think you'll appreciate the imagery on them. This deck actually was given to me by my daughter, who found it in a flea market. I've no idea where it originates, but I have spent a lot of time would you call it meditating, or would you call it praying, or would you call it just practical magic in infusing spirit into the cards? So I'm confident it's going. This is definitely. Look at the back of the cards, incidentally. Interesting, isn't it? And this is the card that's come out. That is the Three of Cups, and this one's clearly coming out as well. And that is the Eight of Wands. Okay, my friend, why don't you come and sit down next to me and have a good close look at these cards while I do a great reading for you. Okay, now let me just get in the zone. For some reason, I feel that this particular energy here is extremely important for you this month. This is, of course, the Magician. Now, there's runic, mystical inscriptions, but let's look at let me just grab my pen and pull this out a little bit so that you can see it in totality. Here we have the Magician here. In front of him there are the four symbols of the suits of tarot. Here is the wand, although it's shaped like a spear, it's in fact a wand. We can tell that because of the fire which is emanating from it. Wands are the suit of fire. A sword here being the suit of air. Here is a cup, naturally, being the suit of water, and this stone here is representative of the suit of earth. Now, there is a symbol down here of Mercury. So the planet Mercury is very much associated with the energy here. Mercury, of course, was the messenger of the gods, and I feel it's as if almost you are being called upon to do work which is of benefit not only to yourself but to other people. There is here a depiction of the moon, and I'm just getting from this diagram. What am I getting from it, from this picture? I'll tell you what it is. Here is like a tiara or crown on the head of the Magician. From his left eye emanates a number of crystals. Now, these crystals, for me, I think symbolize clarity of thought into the world. This is, of course, where the spirit first comes into incarnation, and there is duality away from oneness with the divinity. But this clarity of vision, as is symbolized for me by these crystals, can be overcome by the subconscious, which is represented by the moon for me, And thus this other figure is almost, well, I won't say malevolent, but this dark figure which rises up from the skull of the emperor himself. Very much the case then, I think that there is some work to be done, but that you are not to be held back by things which are in your subconscious. Now let's have a look at this runic figure here. The runes, of course, were the alphabet, well, not just the alphabet of the Vikings. And this is the earliest inscription of the letter Fehu. The runes weren't just symbols for human sounds, as our alphabets are, but they were windows into the cosmic consciousness through which people could look, particularly people versed in magic. Now this rune is Fehu, and it represents earned income. Fehu literally means mobility and cattle. And of course, back in the Viking ages, cattle represented wealth, didn't it? Of course it would. And I think this rune also represents your career as well as your wealth, status, and position. Fehu is a rune of success and attainment, all right? And if you were to draw this rune, it would indicate that prosperity is coming towards you in some form, often, but not always, regarding money, but it can be wealth in other areas. And this is actually highlighted by the fact that there are a number of different elements that are available to the magician to use in the material plane here. The emotions, the mind, the will, and the material things in life. You know, this is something that you should bear in mind, I think. The type of gain will be indicated generally if you're casting runes by the surrounding runes. But notwithstanding that, I think that this rune announces the arrival of that which you have worked for. You will overcome opposition, and the advice of Fehu is to keep with the plan you have already underway. There are no negative runes surrounding it, so if there were, then I would say to conserve what you already have, but this is particularly fortuitous, this particular rune. Let's have a look next at this thing here. Now this thing is actually biblical Hebrew. It's the second letter of the old Hebrew alphabet. It's called Bet, or Beth sometimes as it's said, and it signifies the number 2. This is the first letter of the story of creation, starting the entire Torah in the Jewish tradition, or Old Testament in the Christian and Islamic traditions. This symbol represents let me pull this out a bit so I can see it in the context of the other cards. Now, what was I saying? Oh yes, I was saying that this symbol represents the beginning of duality, with the one creator bringing forth a created world, so that there can be both a giver, the creator, and a receiver, the created world, for the creator to bestow, benefit upon. Now this creates a dramatic leap from absolute oneness that I was just talking about. The leap to the ability for there to be two. It also creates the possibility for all duality and opposites, such as yes and no, hot and cold, man and woman, up and down, and so on and so on. Now the literal meaning of this symbol and its form denotes a house, and it represents the universal concept of a container or a vessel. Thus, the created world is meant to house within it the spiritual. The physical world is meant to be the place for the Creator's glory to manifest. The body is meant to contain the soul, allowing it to act in the world. The dual world actually contains within it the ultimate oneness, but that ultimate oneness is concealed. Yeah, It's quite mystical, I know. I know you won't object to me going into some of the mysticism which surrounds these cards. I think what it says for you is that you have all the skills and tools needed to move forward with something that you want to achieve. The key is to be able to bring these skills together in the best possible way so that you have the maximum chance of success in what you do. You need to look at the content and the purity of your thoughts, because all actions and thoughts have consequences. I can absolutely assure you of that. What we put out eventually finds its way back to us, colored by everything it has touched along the way. I think this is a time to focus on your goal and what you practically need to do to get there. You need to have the discipline and the focus to translate your ideas into action. Now, clear communication with others is needed at this time, I think, to make the best possible chance of success with your goals. And examine your skill set. Examine it to make sure that you are not underestimating it or overestimating it in relation to your desire to get your goal. I think you have to also, separate that which is truthful in your life from that which is deceiving you. This may be in the realm of work or relationships or even your spiritual path if you're pursuing one. It's certainly a good time to share your knowledge with others who are looking for a deeper meaning in their life. I want to go next to the card in the middle here. This is interesting. This is a very earthy card. And this has got a lot of you all over it. Let me pull it out a little bit. Well, it is described as being the white buffalo woman. Actually, I am aware of there was a Native American medicine man or spiritual visionary called Black Elk, and he died about 1950. And it was he, I think, who spoke about the white buffalo calf woman. The white buffalo calf woman was a member of integrated herself into the Lakota tribe. That was one of the tribes of the Sioux nation of people. The lands today, I suppose, in the plains, inhabit places like North and South Dakota in the American continental landscape. And the legend has it that the people were hungry because there was famine, and the chief sent 2 young warriors out to find food. Now they saw in the distance this beautiful young woman. One of the warriors said, "Look, I think I might go up and approach her and get her to be a wife of mine." The other guy who was with him said, "I don't think that's a good idea, because to me she looks holy." Anyway, the first guy went up, embraced her, whereupon a white cloud came down, surrounding them both, and then it disappeared, and all that was left was the woman herself and a pile of bones that had been the man. The other guy was, of course, taken aback by this, and he placed an arrow in his bow, ready to fire it upon her, when the woman called out to him in the Lakota language, so from the Lakota tribe, and said, "Look, don't worry, the same thing is not going to happen to you, because I can see into your heart and I know it is pure." She, in fact, according to Black Elk, had supernatural origins, and she brought into the Lakota people spiritual practices, among which were the pipe that they used to use and smoke in their spiritual ceremonies. Very, very earthy, this woman. The buffalo, incidentally, were considered by the people at the time to be sacred animals and also to pass on messages from ancestors. Well, that's all very interesting. What does it mean for you? Well, ordinarily, I would probably refer to her as the princess of the echoing hills, the rose of the palace of earth. I see Taurus here, and you might also have things to do with Gemini or with Aries during this period. This denotes a woman, but bear in mind the court cards can refer to both genders, but I'll refer to her as a woman for the obvious reasons. A woman who's beautiful and strong, pregnant with life, generous, kind, and benevolent. She really is the earthy part of Earth, and in many respects to me has a great connection, I suppose, with the concept of Gaia, with Mother Earth, with birth, with renewal, with pregnancy, and with harmony. What I think that she has to say to you is this, is that you are now ready for the new beauty in your life. You will, I think, be kind and benevolent and following your true will or purpose in life. And see, this is saying that you've got things to do. Remember, wasn't it? It was saying that you've got things to do. Let's pull out a bit here. There we go. Leave my pen there because I can use it to point at things. I think that this is also about getting in touch with that most important aspect of you and protecting it. Just as this white buffalo woman came in and offered protection to the Lakota tribes. In fact, she, as the legend has it, said to them, "Follow these spiritual practices and your people will rise up again." It can be a foreteller, I'm thinking, in this context, where it's placed in the middle of the spread here. I do think that you'll hear of pregnancy or birth. Certainly, I think with you, you're going to have the birth of ideas. It certainly also represents a very productive time after what I think may, for you, have been perceived to be something of a barren stretch. Is that right? And it's also particularly beneficial for those who are involved in domestic life. And in fact, I think during this period, you will be interested in domestic pursuits and in looking at things which have that particular interest. Now, let's have a look at this card here because I want to introduce this hexagram here. This is the I Ching. And we spoke maybe in the introduction of the I Ching. This is, of course, the Eight of Wands. The Eight of Wands, which I call the Lord of Swiftness. But let's have a look at this I Ching figure first up. Now, when you have broken lines like this, this is yin. They are yin. I Ching is yin and yang. Receptive broken lines are feminine, and unbroken lines are masculine, yang. So when we have three yings, a yang, a yin, and another yang, we have a I Ching symbol, I suppose, which actually refers to easy progress. The situation is one of easy, natural progress. What has been weak is ascending, and by gaining a prominent position, will become more powerful. The image is the light of the rising sun, which at first appears dimly through the mists. But this same light radiates with powerful clarity when the sun has reached a high position in the sky. Progress is made when those in subordinate positions make peace with those above, and in so doing create a natural means for their talents and abilities to become more visible. It's by recognizing and riding with the natural course of events, by hitching your wagon to the rising sun, as it were, that you advance your position and earn respect. Goodness in human nature is like the dim but beautiful early morning light. Greed, hatred, and other forms of self-absorption can obscure it, just as the morning light can be swallowed by the fog. Be reminded that progress is achieved most effortlessly when right action is taken without concern for immediate reward, and when the path of the weaker aligns with the path of the strong. Yeah, well, that's what the divinatory meaning is for me from this I Ching symbol here. We have the number 8. I love the number 8. It refers to power and to balance, and in particular it refers to divinity, and it also refers to decision. And here we have, rising with blue sky behind it, we have 8 wands. Again, we can tell they're wands because of the fire coming out of them, which are all lined up, and they're all pointing in the same direction, aren't they? They're all going in the same direction. Now, astrologically, I see this as being Mercury ruling the first decan of Sagittarius. You know that, what would it be, the 23rd of November to the 2nd of December. Now, Mercury is the planet of communication, and Sagittarius has the swiftness of the arrow. And this produces something of a restless intellect in you, I think. I think what we can see is that, though, that there will, because of this number 8, which also has Mercury as the planetary attribution to it, in my opinion, in my esoteric studies, is that you'll have a great degree of practicality and focus during this particular time. I think that this is really a strike while the iron is hot sort of a card. It's a very short energy card is what I'm getting. Fire is about energy, and the energy that I'm getting here is that of electricity, not the... I'm cognizant that there are flames coming off the edge here, but I'm really getting that very directed, strong burst of electricity coming through. It says that you can transform any situation, problem, or obstacle by taking quick action with direct communication, that's the Mercury aspect of it, to resolve it. And it highlights the need for clear communication to manifest the things that we want in our lives. And look, isn't that also what this symbol was telling us as well, about keeping channels open, aligning yourself with the power? The card talks about refinement of the energy, so you need to be clear with others and manifest the things for the highest good. This is also what this was saying, that it's time for you to go forward with things, but in a way which is not greedy and for self-gratification, but in a way which helps other people, and then the material things will come with it. If you serve other people, reward will come. Now, I think you can expect to be busy, as this card really, for me, has a lot of energy propelling you towards your goals. I think you're going to complete projects that you've got underway, really get them done. I think you're going to get them tied up. But I'll just say this. These things are focused. They're all heading in the same direction. And this is saying to me that you need to determine where your energy will be directed and then get on with it. And I'd have this thought in mind. My openness and self-confidence opens the hearts of those I love. Use this opportunity to open yourself up more to those people who mean something to you. Talk to them, communicate with them. That's the Mercury aspect of it. I want to look now, before I get to this final card down here, at this particular card, which looks really rather stunning from an artistic sense. Now here we have a Well, it is, of course, the star, major arcana. Now here we have a woman, probably an older woman, I suppose, given the condition of her clothing here. It's a bit kind of worn out, isn't it? She's washing her hair in a stream of water. There are no trees, there's no flowers around. It's very earthy. It's very much like as the earth was at the beginning. It's rock and it's water. This is the sign of Aquarius here, so it is... Aquarius is ruled by Saturn in the classical astrological sense. You can say it's Uranus if you want to be modern about it, but really it's, for me, it's Saturn. I don't see the reason to throw over thousands of years of astrological attribution, because in the last couple of hundred years you found a couple of older lying planets, but nevertheless. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stars surrounding this double star here. Now here is a rune, and here is another one of those ancient biblical symbols. And I'm going to deal first with this rune, shall I? You really can't get much more of an earthy picture than this, can you? This is really somebody who is in touch with the earth. You know, it's very much the case for you, isn't it, that there is a lot of earth and Mother Earth connotation surrounding you. We saw it here with her, and we see this Gaia image again, for me, with this card here. Well, let's look first at the rune, shall we? Now, the rune really is... let me just see which one is it? Oh, this is Aries. Now, Aries is another rune of protection. Drawing this indicates that you have set your sights on a reasonable target and can achieve your goals. And weren't we talking about that here? When you concentrate your forces and when you narrow down your point of attack. This is saying that you can do it where it's reasonable. There may be a slight obstacle, delay, or minor problems, I think, which sometimes show up around this, but it won't cause too much trouble. So don't be too over-anxious to move ahead. The obstacle or delay actually may prove to be beneficial, even if it doesn't seem so at the time, or it won't turn out to be too big. And I think that what we can also say is that this rune has also been interpreted as having a tie to the past. It can mean that you will hear from someone from your past, and sometimes this rune is an indication that problems from your past that were not dealt with effectively could be returning. It can also mean that where this rune, look at, if it's cast with another rune which is called Jera, which is almost like a broken up version of this, it means that problems that previously had no answer will soon be resolved. But as I say, even though this particular rune may hint at delays, this rune he has is actually very positive. Now let's look at this particular thing, and let me just make sure you can see it. Just bear with me while I muck around with the vision for you. Now here it is. It looks like a sort of a mathematical symbol, doesn't it, really? But this is Sade. It's the 18th letter of the biblical Hebrew alphabet. The letter Sade represents the person who is known as a Sadiq. That is the person who is just. And it also represents the goodness of the Creator. Now, the person to whom this symbol or energy attaches strives to be true, loving justice and fairness, and is really straight and fully honest with their conscience. The idea that the world is broken so that every person must face their own evil and learn to restore it. Now, the literal meaning of this thing is fishhook. Let me just expand on what I just said. The idea is that the world is broken and that everybody has their part to play. You know, you might say that why did the divinity create the universe or create us? It didn't have to, and yet we're there. And so in a sense, the divinity needs us. The divinity needs us to go out and reform this element, this lower element, and to work together to create, to, if you like, it has come down from the point of, through the different layers of the worlds, through the different dimensions, it's come down from Godhead down into the material cosmos. And what the divinity needs is for the material cosmos to work together to bring this world back up into Godhead. So in a real sense, I think we can say that the divinity does need you and needs your work to get things done, even in the smallest way. I mean, even if you're bound to a wheelchair, you say, what can I do? Well, you can meditate and have compassion for other people, because thoughts, the energy of thoughts, reverberate in the other realms, and they carry on throughout eternity. Now, righteousness and humility are the two defining traits of the person to whom this symbol really attaches. And it really signifies that the essence of the divinity who animates all of matter and that guides it and dwells within the one who is humble. Another key trait is hiddenness. The divinity is kind of hidden within the person by virtue of their spiritual nature. That's what that means. Now, so it says that you have been called, each of us have been called to try and make the world a better place as best we can, even if it's just with the hope and a prayer. It's ruled, as I say, by Aquarius, and I mentioned that Saturn, for me, rules Aquarius. Saturn is also associated with the number 3 in my mystical analysis. And the number 3 is almost, if you like, the mother that gestates form, that takes the idea, goes through the process of seeding it, and then gestates form. And I think that Aquarius is all about the individual and uniqueness, and yet has an overall humanitarian outlook. Well, the star shares these qualities in that it is trying to remind you about the divinity and the uniqueness which is contained within you. And yet it is encouraging you to be a conduit for bringing down your highest potential. I'd say that this is a time where I think that you will be feeling fulfilled and inspired by life. I think it is also a reminder to follow your dreams and that which gives you the most inspiration. Maybe being directed to express your spiritual side, joy, hope, inspiration. Be open to love. Be open to love, because without love, life just flashes by. And trust the universe, for want of a better term, and what it brings. And I think here also that encouragement is now being given, that you have had testing times in the past, and that now is the time to move forward with renewed hope and live an inspired life that you can express yourself in fully. Anyway, let's get into the final card, which is this one here, the 3 of Cups, which is just a glorious card. And we're going to have a look at it in some relief there. Here we have 3 cups overflowing and inside a cave, interestingly, with water or a river flowing underneath it, and these rocks here, which may hint of some form of obstacle, perhaps, of danger, perhaps. Well, not if you've seen them, they're not. You can just walk around them, can't you? Now here is another one of these I Ching characters. And let me just count the lines. There's yin, yang, 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 yin. Okay, that's that is the Ta Quo, which is Ta Quo, critical mass. And the action here is really to adjust. To follow the energy of your life, you will discover that it is always seeking the best of what you might become. Now, Ta Quo can have the message that something is too much, or a situation has come to a condition of critical mass, and that an adjustment is needed. The roof has become too heavy for the support of the foundations. Exuberance of thought or ideas are weighing down on an old foundation that was built to support the past. Now, sometimes it can mean being out of touch with the reality of a situation, or excess of some kind can be at play. I think that Tarot can suggest the hidden influence of the creative, if I can call it that, at the root of the situation, where this tension is actually the driving force of great creativity and accomplishment. Now, nature uses tension to push things beyond the known. Opposites collide and they're all lifted to a higher, more sustainable level. Even while critical mass sometimes feels uncomfortable, it leads to a readjustment, doesn't it? And in this case, you may have to push beyond what you feel is limiting you by adapting and adjusting. Now, I can go on about that, but I won't do it because time prevents. And I'll just say this, that the card here of the Three of Cups is beautiful. It really is the Lord of Abundance from my perspective. And what I love about the Lord of Abundance is it has that number 3 associated, which is about extension, it's about development, it's about making things happen, it's about growth, it's about generation of ideas. Now, astrologically, it's Mercury in the second decan of Cancer. The dates of that are 2nd to the 11th of July, I suppose. Now, Cancer is the most maternal of the signs and well placed in the number 3, which, as I referred to before, has the association with the motherhood, with gestation. So it's the most maternal of the signs. And I think that Cancer people can communicate with feeling and convey a sensitive, withdrawn and thoughtful nature by and large, can't they? I mean, sometimes they can get a bit defensive about things, but maybe not without cause. So Mercury and Cancer, well, Mercury is about will and communications into Cancer, which is nurturing. So you'll be able to express your feelings fully with people that you are close to and which enrich your life. Now, that's really what we were talking about with the images before, about saying to people, communicate to them that you need to tell them that you love them. With 3 cups there are at least, I'd say for you, 3 very special people who you need to say that you love them and you appreciate them being in your life. This is talking to me about the birth of an idea or a goal. Oh, you'll hear about the birth of a child or a pregnancy. I think sharing success with others, life is going to feel good. It is, as I say, a good time for you to tell other people that you love them, and it's a good time to boost the morale of other people. I can't tell you the karmic reward of going up to someone in a shopping mall, not in a creepy way, and saying, gee, I love those colours on you, or I love the way you've done your hair, it looks fantastic, and then just move on without expecting anything in return. The image and the esteem of that person will be significantly boosted. It's about enjoying your riches at the moment, but of course being aware of their limitations. And I think that what you should do is say this to yourself, that today life gives me everything I need to be happy. Believe it, and it is so. Well, that's the way it is for you this month. Well, there you go, January 2020. I have to say this, that you were absolutely fantastic during that reading, and I loved doing it for you. I think this is going to be a great year for you, and have a fantastic January. And all I have to say is this, and remember always that you are a legend, and I look forward to seeing you again next month. Until then, bye for now.